Good morning. Welcome to our worship service at First Unitarian Church of Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Ken Mandile. I'm leading worship this morning, along with our summer musician, Alana Cady, our broadcast technician, Eugene Rossi. Jay Lavelle coordinates our summer services, and I want to thank him for once again putting together a wonderful series for us. Here at First Unitarian Church, we strive in loving fellowship to honor the sacred, connect with each other, and serve justice. We are a welcoming congregation, whatever your age, race, class, nationality, sexual orientation, or gender identity. We are delighted to have you here with us this morning. We extend a special welcome to those who are single, married, divorced, widowed, filthy rich, comfortable, or dirt poor. We also extend a special welcome to those who are crying newborns, skinny as a rake, or could afford to lose a few pounds. If you are old Worcester, new Worcester, not Worcester, or just passing by, we welcome you. We welcome you if you can sing like Pavarotti or can't carry a note in a bucket. We welcome you if you're just browsing, just woke up, or just got out of prison. We don't care if you're more Christian than the Pope or haven't been to church since little Jack's christening. We extend a special welcome to those who are over 60 but who have not yet grown up, and to teenagers who are growing up too fast. We welcome keep fit moms, football dads, starving artists, tree huggers, latte sippers, vegetarians, junk food eaters, but we give special welcome to coffee drinkers. We welcome you if you're having problems or down in the dumps or don't like organized religion. We've all been there too. If you blew all your money on last week's Mega Millions jackpot, you're still welcome here. We welcome those who think the world is flat, who work too hard, don't work, can't spell, or came because grandma's in town and wanted to go to church. We welcome you if you are a Woo Sox fan or a Red Sox fan or don't know how many touchdowns you need to win a baseball game. We welcome those who are inked, pierced, or both, branded, Botoxed, facelifted, have bionic knees and hips. We offer a special welcome to those who could use a prayer right now, had religion shoved down your throat as a kid, or got lost in Kelly Square, or Lincoln Square, or Newton Square, and wound up here by mistake. We welcome tourists, seekers, doubters, bleeding hearts, and you. We are worshiping as one congregation in many places. We have people here in the sanctuary and people joining us online. The ministries of our church stretch beyond the walls of this sanctuary. If you're online, you can like this video to help others find us, and please subscribe to our channel to find more of our content. Our newsletter is the best way to stay in touch and join our other programs. If you would like to receive our e-newsletter, please go to firstunitarian.com and click subscribe to our newsletter at the bottom of any page. If you're here in the sanctuary, you can visit the welcome table, which is wrong. You know the welcome table is completely empty right now because of Weagora, so let's skip that. There's no welcome table this morning. This is the day the Lord has made. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of lambs. How rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity, while we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch, and the bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads. It's now time for our chalice lighting. Karen will light our chalice today.
In the spirit of love,
we light this chalice. Please rise in body or spirit to renew our covenant as printed in the order of service and on your screen. In the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all. Please join me in the common prayer on page 512 of the Gray Hymnal. We give thanks this day. We'll read it together. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations, we give thanks this day. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons, we give thanks this day. For the human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements, we give thanks this day. For our human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression. We give thanks this day. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared, we give thanks this day. For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom, we give thanks this day. For human liberty and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose, we give thanks this day. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. In our sacred time together, we share the joys and sorrows of our church with one another. Paul Popenchuk asked that we all pray for peace in our world and work for the elimination of nuclear weapons. Yesterday, August 6th, marks the 77th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima during World War II. That bomb alone killed 140,000 human beings. According to the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, there are over 13,000 nuclear weapons on Earth today. The U.S. plans to spend $2 trillion more on nuclear weapons over the next 30 years, money that could be spent on healthcare, poverty elimination, education, and reduction of the threat of climate change. Let us work together as a faith community to fill our sixth UU principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Maggie Boone lights a candle because she got a job. Please continue your own thoughts and prayers in this time of silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Our ministries at First Unitarian Church continue to thrive because of your support. Your offering makes a difference here and in our community. The ushers will receive this morning's offering. If you are worshiping online, you can text the number on your screen or go to firstunitarian.com and click Give Online at the top of any page. I invite your generous contributions for the good work of this church. Our first reading today are some excerpts from G.K. Chesterton. He was an early 20th century English writer, poet, philosopher, and theologian. He reminded his readers to live in awe and gratitude. Here's one of his poems called Saying Grace. You say grace before meals. All right, but I say grace before the play and the opera, and grace before the concert and the pantomime, and grace before I open a book, and grace before sketching, painting, swimming, fencing, boxing, walking, playing, dancing, and grace before I dip the pen in the ink. Please rise in body or spirit and join in... Wait a minute, let's not do that yet. I skipped most of my reading. Let's go on. That was just the poem. I have some other quotes from Chesterton. There is no such thing on earth as an uninteresting subject. The only thing that can exist is an uninterested person. There are no boring subjects, only disinterested minds. When the cord of monotony is stretched to its tightest, it breaks with the sound of a song. Because children have abounding vitality, because they are in spirit fierce and free, therefore wanting things repeated and unchanged, they always say, do it again. And the grown-up person does it again until he is nearly dead. For grown-up people are not strong enough to exult in monotony. But perhaps God is strong enough to exult in monotony. It's possible that God says every morning, do it again to the sun, and every evening, do it again to the moon. It may not be an automatic necessity that makes all daisies alike. It may be that God makes every daisy separately, but has never got tired of making them. It may be that he has the eternal appetite of infancy. One sees great things from the valley, and only small things from the peak. The aim of life is appreciation. There is no sense in not appreciating things, and there is no sense in having more of them if you have less appreciation of them. Fairy tales do not tell children that dragons exist. Children already know that dragons exist. Fairy tales tell children that dragons can be killed. Gratitude is happiness doubled by wonder. The world will never starve for want of wonders, but for want of wonder. We should always endeavor to wonder at the permanent thing, not at the mere exception. We should be startled by the sun and not by the eclipse. We should wonder less at the earthquake and wonder more at the earth. What was wonderful about childhood is that anything in it was a wonder. It was not merely a world full of miracles, it was a miraculous world. Now please rise in body and spirit to join in singing our second hymn, number 108 in the gray hymnal, My Life Flows in Endless Song. be seated. My second reading this morning are some observations from astronauts. Apollo 8 crew member Frank Borman said that when he saw the Earth while orbiting the moon, he thought, "This must be what God sees." Viewed from space, there are no borders, no races, not even any people. It's all one tiny, beautiful blue ball. And when you're finally up at the moon looking back on Earth, all those differences and nationalistic traits are pretty well going to bend. And you're going to get a concept that maybe this is really one world, and why the hell can't we learn to live together like decent people, unquote. One of Borman's crewmates on Apollo 8 was Bill Anders. He said about the experience, quote, "We came all this way to explore the moon, and the most important thing we discovered was the Earth," unquote. William Shatner became the oldest person to ever go to space last October at age 90, believe it or not. Shatner was moved to tears by the experience. Here are some of his observations after his trip to space. There's this tiny blue skin that's 50 miles wide, and we pollute it, and it's our means of living, and I was so profoundly struck by it. I could see the curvature of the Earth. I could see the beginning and the end of the Earth. I could see the delicate colors. I could see the beige, the blue, and the white of the clouds, and how very small it is. Everything is beautiful on the Earth, and it's taken 5 billion years to generate, and one day it'll all be gone. And it'll be gone a lot sooner than we thought if we continue the way we're going. I hope I never recover from this. I hope that I can maintain what I feel now. I don't want to lose it. It has to do with the enormity and the quickness and the suddenness of life and death. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. The moment you see the vulnerability of everything, it's so small, this air which is keeping us alive is thinner than your skin. Everybody in the world needs to do this. Everybody in the world needs to see. Space Shuttle astronaut Charles Bolden said, "It really changes your perspective on the planet. In my case, because we launched due east, I looked out the window and I saw this big island. At least what I thought was a big island, it turned out to be the continent of Africa, the second biggest continent on the planet. And there were no lines and no borders, and I don't know why I really expected it to look like a globe, but it didn't. And all the way from the Mediterranean coast, just going through the Sahara Desert down to the equatorial regions, it was breathtaking, and I literally wept. Tears came to my eyes." And finally, Alan Shepard from Apollo 14. "If someone had said to me before this flight, 'Are you going to get carried away looking at the Earth from the moon?' I would have said, 'No way.' But when I first looked back at the Earth while standing on the moon, I cried." First, I want to thank you all for coming out on this warm Sunday morning. Easter Sunday of 2020 fell on April 12th, just a few weeks into the COVID pandemic. Much of the world was well into COVID lockdown mode. We had no vaccines, very little testing availability, not enough masks and other PPE, and we had no idea what we were in for over the next 2 years. Northern Italy, in particular, was in the center of the COVID storm. They experienced one of the highest death rates in the world from that first brutal wave of COVID. The country was in crisis mode, locked down tight as tens of thousands of elderly and health-compromised COVID victims overloaded the hospitals and morgues. And in the midst of this crisis, popular Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli offered the world what he called a concert of love and healing and of hope. It was to become the most watched online classical concert in history. Bocelli sang in the empty Duomo in Milan, and later in the concert he moved outside to the empty Piazza del Duomo. The Duomo in Milan is massive and ornate, even by the grand Italian standards for churches. The Duomo di Milano is the second largest cathedral in the world. It's said to have the most statues in the world. Almost 4,000 intricate human and divine statues adorn the white marble cathedral. Construction of the Duomo began in the year 1386 and was not completed until 1965. That's 6 centuries of construction. The Duomo is awe-inspiring, inside and out. Its size, its beauty, its history, it makes it one of those structures that just wows you and moves you when you see it in person. On that Easter Sunday of 2020, the awe of the sight of the Duomo was supplemented with the awe of the songs and the voice of Bocelli. And having been to the Duomo a couple of times, I knew that the piazza should have been filled with thousands of tourists mulling about with flocks of pigeons and food vendors and tour guides. On that April Sunday, Andrea Bocelli stood alone, lonely and small in this amazing setting. It was beautiful, but sad. It was disconcerting to see the vast Piazza del Duomo devoid of all people but this one lone singer. The music was hopeful, but the dystopian emptiness left one with a sense of dread. This emotion created by the awe of the sights and sounds told watchers that the world had changed and that we were entering the unknown. We needed to realign our understanding of the world. When we start out in life, we are in awe of everything that we see because it's all new to us. Babies look at their own hands in wonder, and they drop their spoons as an experiment to see what happens. And the first time they do it, the spoon drops, and they wonder, what will happen if I do it again? Okay, they learn that the spoon drops. What if they drop their whole meal? The wonder of dropping food and spoons eventually wears thin. Later, we develop verbal skills, and we can ask our all-knowing parents why. Children ask why over and over. You've probably heard that a typical 4-year-old asks up to 300 questions a day. Every new fact is a wonder to a 4-year-old. By the time we became teenagers, we had it all figured out. Nothing surprises us. We know how the world works. And as adults, much of the novelty of the world is worn out. We think that we have most of the answers that we need to survive and thrive, and we don't feel the need to ask why very often. Life becomes a routine of daily patterns of the mundane and the ordinary. We think we know how the world works or should work, but sometimes we see something or hear something that doesn't fit with what we believe is true. This is where awe fits in. Often it is something given to us by nature. Seeing the Grand Canyon, a herd of bison at Yellowstone, the rocky shores of Maine, the colors of a New England fall, a sunset or a thunderstorm. It doesn't have to be nature, though. It could be a person or people who amaze us with achievement or talent or acts of kindness or bravery. Awe is a little discussed and researched emotion, yet it has a huge impact on how we see ourselves in the world and how we relate to our families and our neighbors and to the rest of the world. And it can inspire spirituality and good health, cooperation, and humility. It was only about 20 years ago that awe began to receive attention from anyone besides theologians and philosophers. Psychologists and sociologists have begun to do controlled research studies to determine the effects of awe on us as individuals and as a society. The few studies that have been done are indicating that awe is an important, powerful, and very positive emotion. The John Templeton Foundation funds research and conversations that inspire people with awe and wonder. And in 2018, the Templeton Foundation published a white paper written and researched by the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley. The Greater Good Science Center studies well-being. The Greater Good white paper summarized 24 or so studies on various aspects of awe. And the landmark study that began the new science of awe was published in 2003, less than 20 years ago. And the two authors of that first study defined awe experience as being characterized by two phenomena: perceived vastness and a need for accommodation. Perceived vastness can come from observing something physically large, the Grand Canyon, for example, or being in the presence of someone with immense prestige, or being presented with a complex idea. A need for accommodation can come from observing something physically large. I jumped ahead. A need for accommodation comes when an experience or a sight violates our normal understanding of the world, when a stimulus exceeds our expectations in some way. It provokes an attempt to change our understanding of the world. So in the example that I offered, the size and the beauty of the Duomo and the prestige of Andrea Bocelli provided the perceived vastness. Seeing Bocelli sing to the empty Duomo di Milano and to an empty Piazza del Duomo provoked a need for accommodation. Bocelli sings in large concert halls packed with people, and on that Easter Sunday, he was all by himself in a cathedral and in a piazza that should have been filled with people. Our minds needed to accommodate what we were seeing. Our understanding of the world had to be realigned. Well, so what if you or if I or anyone else experience awe on that day or on any other day? We experience all kinds of emotions every day. What makes awe so important? Here are some of the effects of awe summarized in the Good Science white paper. First, there is a physical reaction to awe that makes us feel good. Goose tingles are a form of what we call goosebumps. It's the pleasant tingling sensation that we get when we're moved by positive emotions. We experience goose tingles when we hear beautiful music, see a great movie, or perhaps even when we hear a great sermon on a summer Sunday morning, and many other things throughout our lives. Studies have found that repeatedly exposing ourselves to sights and sounds and experiences that provoke goose tingles can have long-term health effects, such as lower levels of inflammation and diminished depression. The most studied aspect of awe is the small self experience. Experiencing awe diminishes a person's sense of self and shifts their focus to others. Standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon or on the edge of a great waterfall, how can one feel anything but small? There is one unique experience that creates the small self experience effect more than There's one human experience that creates the small self effect more effectively and intensely than any other, and that is the experience of seeing Earth from space. The overview effect is the term coined to describe the psychological effect of seeing the Earth from space has on astronauts. A little over 600 people have been to space since Yuri Gagarin first went only 60 or so years ago, and most of them came back changed by the experience. Many astronauts are moved to tears when seeing the Earth from space. The overview effect is a transformational experience, a transcendental experience. Anyone that goes to space is changed forever. Neil Armstrong talked about walking on the moon. Quote, "It suddenly struck me that that tiny pea, pretty and blue, was the Earth. and I put my thumb up and shut one eye, and my thumb blotted out planet Earth. I didn't feel like a giant. I felt very, very small. Edgar Mitchell on Apollo 14 said, quote, "You develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him a quarter miles out and say, 'Look at that, you SOB,' unquote." There are plenty of terrestrial experiences that can fill us with wonder and the sense of the small self. We just have to look out for them and revel in them when we're lucky enough to discover them. They will often come from nature, but we can sometimes see it when people come together in a movement for a common cause, when a scientific or technological marvel is in the news. Just look at the photos that the James Webb Space Telescope sends us of the billions of galaxies that no humans have ever been able to see before. The Webb Telescope photos can inspire a sense of awe at the wonder of our universe, but so does this remarkable feat of human accomplishment. We live in an age of wonder, yet too many of us have become hardened and cynical and immune and blind to the awesomeness of our marvelous accomplishments. A byproduct of the small self effect is humility. People who report experience a recent sense of awe also report that they feel more humble and they present a more balanced view of their strengths and weaknesses to others. Humility is a vital virtue at the foundation of morality. Not surprisingly, awe has a spiritual effect on us. In fact, some anthropologists believe that awe is one of the primary sources of our religious and spiritual beliefs. As our minds sought to accommodate the fearsomeness and the miracles of nature, even in our secular, over-reasoned 21st century world, awe can inspire a spiritual, self-transcendental consciousness as we try to accommodate the inexplicable wonders of nature and of humankind, of the mystical and of the sacred. Rabbi Harold Kushner talks about how the Bible repeatedly refers to the fear of God. He says, but the fear of God does not mean being afraid of God. The fear of God is not fear as we use it today, but awe and reverence. Fear is a negative emotion. It makes us want to run from whatever we are afraid of, or else to destroy it. But awe is different. Awe is a positive feeling, an expansive feeling. Instead of resenting our own smallness or weakness, we stand open-mouthed in appreciation of something greater than ourselves, unquote. Researchers have found many other benefits from awe: a greater sense of gratitude, pro-social behaviors, health and well-being benefits, an expanded perception of time, increased connectedness to other people, and increased willingness to expand our worldview. With all of these benefits, how do we rekindle that sense of awe and wonder that we had as children? Well, the most important thing is to search for it and be receptive to it. Get out into nature, travel if you can, meet more people if you can, look at the clouds and look at the stars. Look for the good and kind acts of people and at our accomplishments, not just our faults. Connect with something vast, perhaps in terms of physical size or age, complexity, and individual skill or impact that broadens your thinking. We have available to us what some call repositories of awe. These are cemeteries and libraries, zoos, historical sites, churches, theaters, concert halls, and museums. We can't all visit the Duomo in Milan or go to space, but we have many repositories of awe within driving distance. Read stories that inspire awe. We have a rich history of human accomplishment, of heroic acts, exploration, overcoming of adversity, revolution, and invention. And despite what we see on the news, we are an awesome species. Take an awe walk. Sir John Lubbock, a British statesman, said, quote, "What we see depends mainly on what we look for," unquote. An awe walk is taken alone and done at a light pace and without any phones or any other kind of electronics. You cultivate your sense of awe during the walk. Tap into your childhood sense of wonder. Note the vastness of things. Note the intricate detail of things. Seek out novel places to walk. Place the focus outside of yourself. Awe walks have been found to make people experience greater joy, to smile more, promote positive pro-social emotions, greater social connection, and diminished negative thoughts. A clinical psychologist quoted in the Good Science white paper on awe said, quote, "Awe is a lightning bolt that marks in memory those moments when the doors of perception are cleansed and we see with startling clarity what is truly important in life. Moments of awe may be the most important transformative experiences of life," unquote. The physical, spiritual, and emotional benefits of opening ourselves to the awesomeness of nature, to the mysteries of our universe, to the sacred, and to the wonder of our fellow human beings are great. The childlike sense of wonder of our youth remains in all of us. Let us nurture it. Amen. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing. I'm off a little bit. Hymn number 298 in the gray hymnal, "Wake Now My Senses." These words come from the Navajo. Beauty is before me and behind me. Beauty is above me and below me. Let me start again. Beauty is before me and beauty behind me. Above me and below me hovers the beautiful. I am surrounded by it. I am immersed in it. In my youth, I am aware of it, and in old age, I shall walk quietly the beautiful trail. In beauty, it is begun. In beauty, it is ended. Go forth into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the afflicted. Honor everyone. Love and serve the holy, rejoicing in the power of the Spirit forever. Amen. And please be seated for the postlude.